Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Upgrades. I'm Jeremy Knoll.
And I'm John Suarez.
And in this episode, we are going to be talking about the Cabaretti Cacophony deck from Streets of New Capenna Commander Precon decks. And this one is headed up by Kit Kanto Mayhem Diva. And this one's a really sweet one. I got to play this one in the Commander Versus episode where we played all the decks. This is a Cat Bard Druid, 3/3 for 1 red, green, white. Whenever it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token, and at the beginning of combat on each player's turn, you may tap 2 untapped creatures you control. When you do, target creature that player controls gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. Go to that creature. I did mess this up the first time.
I know. It's
Everybody
okay.
had to comment on it.
Of course they did.
That's fine. That's fine. We fixed it a little bit later. We realized it's at the beginning of combat. So playing with new cards for the first time.
Yeah.
You hadn't even seen the card, so. But yeah, it's a fun card. So we got that one. We've also got the secondary one, which is a Fabine, Boss's Confidant. It's 3/6 for 3 red, green, white. Cat Advisor. Creature tokens you control have haste, and it's got Parlay. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each player reveals the top card of their library. For each land card revealed this way, you create a 1/1 green and white creature, citizen creature token. Then creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn for each non-land card revealed this way. Then each player draws a card.
It's a lot of thens.
Yeah, then. Lots of thens. And then the last one, the 2-color commander from this deck that's new is Best Soul Nourisher. 1/1 for 1 green and white legendary creature human citizen. Whenever one or more other creatures with base power and toughness 1/1 enter the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Best Soul Nourisher. Whenever Best attacks, each other creature you control with base power and toughness 1/1 gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on Best. So just kind of an anthem for 1/1s.
Yeah, I like it.
So yeah, this deck is, I think this one was a lot of fun when I played it. It's got 22 creatures, 10 instants, 11 sorceries, 8 artifacts, 10 enchantments, and 38 lands.
They're getting silly with these land counts. So many lands.
Some of them are okay. Some of them are a little obnoxious. But yeah, there's some cool new stuff in this deck, I think. I think Grand Crescendo is a really interesting one.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. I was like, well, if you're going to have a million lands, this is a nice one to get. So, X white instant, create X 1/1 green and white citizen tokens, and then creatures you control gain indestructible to end of turn.
It's interesting because like you're only creating the 1/1 green and white tokens, but gaining the indestructible is really nice.
Yeah, it's white, and it's half of heroic intervention.
Yeah, exactly. It gives you half that heroic intervention. Like I could see myself playing this over like Finale of Glory or
This card seems obnoxious.
Yeah, or there's the White Sun Zenith and stuff like that. Even though those make bigger creatures,
I don't think that matters.
Like unless I'm going to be using those creatures like almost immediately, this one's really, and this one's an instant too, like which is another one, but it gives them all indestructible. It's really good. It's obnoxious.
Yeah, that seems very, very powerful.
Let's see what else is there. There's like we've talked about this a little bit about the fact that this is just such a flavorful set. And there's some really cool ones like Boss's Chauffeur, which is a 0/0 elf citizen for 4 and a white. When it enters the battlefield, with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to 1 plus the number of other creatures you control. Alliance, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Boss's Chauffeur. So it gets tipped.
Yep.
Whenever Boss's Chauffeur dies, create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token for each +1/+1 counter on it.
I like it.
Yeah, that one's a lot of fun.
They again more of just great flavor, false floor.
Yeah.
Again, they're just doing such a great job with top down design on these sets. I love it.
Not only is false floor just a great a great flavorful design, it's also just a really good design in this deck. Because it enters the battlefield tapped, creatures enter the battlefield tapped, and you can pay 2 to exile it. Exile all untapped creatures, activate only as a sorcery. So you use the ability of Kit Kanto, or you do other things. You're trying to attack with this deck a lot, and then anybody who's playing with like vigilant creatures or who hasn't attacked it, and you just sack it and get rid of all those things before they have a chance to.
I also like this Prosperous Partnership. The red and white enchantment that produces green and white tokens. When it enters the battlefield, it's a 3 mana, 1 red, white. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 green and white citizen tokens, and then you can tap 3 untapped creatures to create a treasure token.
Yeah.
That is going to be a sweet card as well, I think.
Yeah. And then I think this one's really funny. When I saw this card, Steven and I were actually talking, the Master of Ceremonies.
Yeah.
3/4 for 3 and a white Rhino Druid. And I said, ooh, this one actually says secrets on it, Steven. And he like got real excited. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent chooses money, friends, or secrets. For each player who chooses money, you and that player each can create a treasure. For each player who chooses friends, you and that player each create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. And for each player who chooses secrets, you and that player each draw a card.
Yeah.
So I was like, this one's going to be a Stephen Green. He's going like, secrets.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
I saw Life of the Party. Thought that was going to be an uncard.
Mm-hmm.
By the name, by the picture, everything looked like it. But it's a pretty sweet card for 4 mana. First strike, trample, haste. When it attacks, it gets +X/+O, where X is the number of creatures you control, so quite a bit. And when it enters the battlefield, if it's not a token, each opponent creates a token that's a copy of it. And those tokens are goaded for the rest of the game.
Yeah. And then I think the
Forever.
other one, for the rest of the game. I think the other one that I thought was pretty neat that is we talked a little bit about this before, where it's the Punisher mechanic, where you let your the opponents choose a thing, and it sees the spotlight. It's a sorcery for 2 and a red. Each opponent chooses Fame or Fortune. For each player who chooses Fame, gain control of a creature that player controls until end of turn. Untap those creatures, they gain haste, so it's a threat effect. And for each player who chooses Fortune, you draw a card and create a treasure token.
Yeah. That card's good. I will say Punisher cards are much better when every opponent has to do it and not one.
Not just target opponent. Yeah, it's not a browbeat. It's not that style anymore from Judgment and stuff like that. Browbeat was honestly one of my favorite cards. I just like the art a lot when I first started playing it. So, but yeah, I think the last one that I love as far as from a flavor standpoint is Killer Service. The Rhino with a serving tray with a knife underneath it. That's so good. Enchantment, 2 and a green. When Killer Service enters the battlefield, create a number of food tokens equal to the number of opponents you have. And at the beginning of your end step, you may pay 2 and sacrifice a token. If you do, create a 4/4 green Rhino Warrior creature token. So you get to bribe a guy to come in and battle for you. Yep. So, but yeah, I think the last one that I want to talk about, though, is this Vivian Stampede. I didn't get a chance to cast this one, but I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to see what you thought about it.
Yeah, this card seems very, very good. 6 mana sorcery. Each creature you control gains vigilance, trample, and melee. That's obnoxious. At the beginning of your next main phase this turn, draw a card for each player who was dealt combat damage this turn.
So this is kind of telling you want to cast it in your first main phase.
Yes. As clear as day.
Yeah. Unless you've got extra combats for some reason and extra main phases.
You're playing Naya, there's definitely ways you can do so. But
definitely could. But for the most part, you're going to want to cast this in your first main phase.
Yep.
You attack with all these creatures that now have vigilance, trample, and melee.
Yeah, so you get the +1/+1.
All your tokens are going to be obnoxious. And then you get to draw a card for each player who was dealt combat damage this turn. So you get to draw a few cards if you get through to everybody, which most likely you will. Yep. I think that one's really good. I think that one it seems like it might be overcosted, but
it's overcosted in the sense like these cards are really good if you get them on time.
Yeah.
Obviously, as more people get knocked out of the game, they become weaker and weaker. So this card you have to hit when you have all 3 of your opponents in the game.
When 3 opponents are still in the game, for sure. I think it's overcosted in comparison to something like just a plain overrun.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's one more, but it has so much more that like they get the vigilance, they get the trample, and they get to actually draw you extra cards.
Like, the green card I thought you were going to be talking about was the Scepter of Celebration.
Oh, Scepter of Celebration is great.
That card was obnoxious when you played it. +2, +0, trample. When it deals damage, when the equipped creature deals damage to a player, create that many 1/1 green citizen tokens, and it's a 3 mana equipment and equips for 3.
Equips for 3, yeah.
It's pretty good. Like you have to deal with that card, or it's going to generate a lot of creatures,
a lot of tokens. And so, getting into it, we were looking at this as this is going to be a token-based deck for sure. And there's going to be a lot of tokens that you're going to play. So your main commander, Kit Kanto, has that ability of tapping 2 untapped creatures you control, and being able to go to things. So there's ways that you can untap things. There's obviously like Seaborn Muse, and you can do stuff like that pretty easily. But there's actually a card that's a little bit more recent that's pretty neat. It's from the Neon Dynasty or Kamigawa Neon Dynasty Commander decks, and that's Drum Bellower. Mm-hmm. It's a 2/1 flyer for 2 and a white, and this comes in the vehicles deck, so it's meant for that sort of thing. But it's untap all creatures you control during each other player's untap step. So it's just creatures, not all permanents. But if you're going to be tapping all your creatures to tap down all their or make their stuff attack with +2/+2 and goad, it's going to be nice to be able to untap the ones that you want to untap each turn to just repeat that for each other opponent.
And you're not painting a target on your back when you play Drum Bellower. You play Seedborn Muse, I'm coming after you.
Yeah, people are going to come after you. They're going to target that Seedborn Muse with whatever removal they've got. It's obnoxious.
I think Drum Bellower is a perfectly fine card there.
Yeah.
So the next card we have is an enchantment. It is Quest for Renewal. It's 2 mana, 1 in the green. Whenever a creature you control becomes tapped, put a quest counter on it. And as long as there are 4 or more counters on it, untap all creatures you control during each other player's untap step. Again, these are the types of cards that you want because you want to untap your creatures. You're going to be tapping them a lot. There's going to be other creatures suggesting that will let you tap them. And you don't want to target.
Yeah.
You just try and keep that off of you.
And then because they're not like cards like Seedborn Muse that are a little bit pricey, they're cheaper. You can get these for, just a couple, maybe
this one probably about
cents.
15 cents.
Yeah, 15 cents.
I would guess.
Yeah. So there's things like that. And there's a new mythic in Streets of New Capenna Commander decks that actually I think it's Streets of New Capenna. Yeah,
I think it is.
That is going to be really good in this deck, and I think is one of those that they kind of made it seem like, oh yeah, this is really obvious to just slot into this precon that you've got, and that's Halo Fountain. Might be a little harder to find because it is mythic, but it really fits into this deck, and it's an artifact for 2 and a white. Has 3 different abilities. Pay a white and tap it. Untap a tapped creature you control. Create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. So you can untap one of yours. Make another token. Pay 2 and tap it. Untap 2 tapped creatures you control. Draw a card. This will be great for mono white for drawing those extra cards. And then pay 5 mana, tap it. Untap 15 tapped creatures you control. You win the game. I know that's a phrase that John loves.
I do love that.
And so I think this will be a lot of fun in this deck. I think it goes right into like a lot of good mono white decks too that are attacking and stuff like that too. So.
Yeah. No, it's a very sweet card. A lot of stuff going on with it. I like that.
Yeah.
One card I have played quite a bit in Commander, and I think this card still doesn't see enough play. That is Throne of the God Pharaoh.
Yeah.
2 colorless legendary artifact at the beginning of the end step, or of your end step. Each opponent being the key, loses life equal to the number of tapped creatures you control.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that's going to be real good if you're going to be attacking a lot. And it's going to be great if you have stuff like Drum Bellower and Quest for Renewal.
Yeah, you're just going to be able to...
You get to attack
with
them all or whatever, or use their abilities, and then they all lose life, and then you can just untap them and use them for the next turn, and not necessarily at the end of your turn. So the next 2 cards are kind of similar. As we've talked about before in the series a little bit, these ones are going to be... One is a bit more expensive, one is very cheap monetarily. So Perforos God of the Forge is a 6/5 for 3 and a red, indestructible god, and if your devotion is red is less than 5, it's not a creature. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Perforos deals 2 damage to each opponent. So that one's really good. Impact Tremors is a budget version of that. It's 1 and a red. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Impact Tremors deals 1 damage to each opponent. So it's still really good in a token-based deck where you're going to be playing lots of creatures all at once.
Yeah, both of those cards are quite obnoxious in a game of Commander, and they can end a game very, very fast. Along those lines, rather than coming into play, but whenever a creature you control attacks, which you're going to be doing a lot with your small creatures, you can play Raid Bombardment. 2 colors and a red. Whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less attacks, Raid Bombardment will deal 1 damage to the attacking player or planeswalker that it's attacking. So just another kind of... You don't want to sack your creatures, so you don't want Goblin Bombardment, but being able to just ping them away with your little 1/1s, whether they're coming into play and dealing damage or whether they're attacking, doesn't matter if they're even getting through. You're still dealing a little bit more damage.
Yeah. What was the other one that had a similar thing where it was a 1 and a red enchantment that whenever you attacked with a 1/1 or a 1 power creature,
I know what you're talking about.
It deals 1 damage.
I can't remember what it was.
I can't remember the name of it, but it's very similar.
Colors and a red enchantment, uncommon. God, man.
Yeah.
Or no, was it the creature?
No, it's an enchantment.
No.
But I'm blanking on the name of that. But it's similar effect, where you can use either. One has the 1 power, requirement, and that's good for your 1 power creature tokens. But I mean, this deck also has like intangible virtue in it, so you're probably going to be pumping them a little bit here and there to get them a little higher. So Raid Bombardment also kind of, you can play Raid Bombardment and intangible virtue in the deck together and still get all that damage going. So. The last card we've got here is one, again, I know that John really dislikes this ability, and that is Disrupt Decorum, which is 2 red for a sorcery that just says goad all creatures you don't control.
I've used it before. It's a great success.
Yeah.
It's a powerful card.
It's obnoxious. It's good. It's just got reprinted in AFR a little while ago, so in those precons. So pretty easy to pick up there. Now, the next couple that we want to talk about are going to be cards that there's quite a few of them, but I think these ones are pretty good examples to go through of cards that you want to become tapped. So they're creatures that you just want to become tapped. So if you want to go over the first one here.
Sure, yeah. I'm a big fan of this. I've played it before, and that is the Pala Pilot Exemplar. Legendary dwarf pilot, 3 mana, colors red-white, 3/3. Other dwarves you get +1/+1, whether or not that matters is irrelevant because each creature you control gets +1/+1 as long as it's creature. That's also not the reason you're wanting to play this
vehicle,
here. The vehicle, yes. What you want to do is whenever Depala becomes tapped, you may pay X, and if you do, look at the top card, X cards of your library and put all the dwarves and vehicles into your hand, and the rest in the bottom of any order. Yeah. So that being able to play some of the vehicles, which I'm pretty sure this deck had.
This deck has a few, but this is definitely one where you probably want to adjust the deck quite a bit into being more of a dwarf and vehicle deck. And this is a great commander, and it adds in the green, so you can play things like Esika's Chariot as well in the vehicles deck, and stuff like that. So not quite a slide it right into the precon and don't mess with it. This is more of a you probably want to build this around more of a vehicles version of the deck. And
we've gotten quite a few over the last few sets.
Yeah, and Depala is going to be a really good creature to tap in a deck with Kit Kanto at the helm. So. Another one that's really good that actually works with the deck, you can probably just put it right in, is Amara, Soul of the Accord. It's a 2/2 for a green and a white elf cleric. Whenever it becomes tapped, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. More tokens,
tap it every time.
Yeah, tap it all the time. It becomes it's a 2/2. It's great.
Yep,
it's a great one.
And then you got the little Spire side, the little Infiltrator. This guy was extremely annoying in Kaladesh Limited. It's 3 mana, 3/2. Just a human rogue. Whenever it becomes tapped, deals 1 to each opponent.
Yep.
Just play it. Don't have to attack. Just crew this vehicle. Ping. Yeah. Ping. Ping.
It's just going around. It's one of those where if you can combine it with the other ones that we talked about, if you get that Drumbeller, that Quest for Renewal, you get any of the things that if you got your commander out and you tap it, you're just going to tap it, deal 1 to everybody, untap it at the beginning of the next person's turn, tap it again. Yeah. It's going to get obnoxious.
Those Infiltrators and Impact Tremors and those little just ping, 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 that drives me nuts.
Wearing everybody
drives me nuts. It's like the opposite of Soul Sister stuff, and I can't do it.
So let's talk a little bit about the lands in this one. 38 lands. We've talked
38.
about
38 again.
Yeah.
This one's sweet though. You get Castle Ardenvale, you get Castle Embereth, you get Cinderglade. You've got Rugged Prairie as another. You get Windbrisk Heights, which is great.
All the thriving lands.
You get all your thrives, of course. You got multiple filter lands again. They're really pushing those Odyssey filter lands.
Yeah, they are.
Really pushing. I think everyone, but
I think there's one in almost everyone.
I actually think all of them got reprinted. Even Shadowblood Ridge.
There's a little bit of land ramp in this one. I mean, it's got the Cultivate. There was another one that had Kodama's Reach in it. This one's got Cultivate in it. And it's got, Soul Ring and Commander Seer.
Sakura Tribe Elder.
Sakura Tribe Elder is your actual land ramp.
Yep.
Stuff like that. So, there's a little bit decent land ramp in this.
Silvalo, the Explorer returned.
Yeah, the green white one. Yeah.
That's the Parlay one, right?
The Parlay one, yeah. That's kind of goes with your secondary commander with Parlay there.
Feldar Retreat. Excellent commander card.
Some that I think that are that don't get enough love and are great in decks like this is Awakening Zone. Those have started to fall out of favor. I haven't seen them very often, but I love Awakening Zone.
Yep.
You know what it's really good with? Beast Within. Or not Beastmaster's Ascension, which is also in the deck. Yeah. Beastmaster's Ascension is what I meant. Yes. Yep. Love that card. And that one will get you, again, be a target on your head if you get that out and get all those.
No, this deck's got Skewed Swarm, as we saw from you. The March of the Multitudes.
Yep. It's got the Duelist Heritage. It's got Feldar Retreat in the deck.
Yeah. Path to Exile. This is a good reprint too.
Yeah, a lot of good reprints, a lot of good reprint value, I think, in this one. Even if it's not the most costly, there's just a lot of good reprints.
There's a lot of really good cards.
Yeah, it's I picked this deck up, I looked through it, and I was like, I like it a lot. I might want to trade with somebody because I just have a lot of these cards. Because these are the cards these are the cards I love. So, but never bad to have more of them. So, but yeah, that is our evaluation of Cabaretti Cacophony. That's the word. Make sure to comment, share, subscribe, binge, all that. Hit that bell to make sure you get notified of the newest things. Make sure to either order or pre-order the deck from StarCityGames.com, depending on when you watch this episode. And for Jonathan Suarez, I'm Jeremy Knoll. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.